New praise today for Maine's freshly minted Democratic Senate candidate, 100 days out from the midterms. Former state Senator Troy Jackson won the nomination to take on five-term Republican Senator Susan Collins. Today, key senators weighing in on the nominee.
I think he's a strong candidate, and I think we have an opportunity, and I think Senator Collins has backed this president on all his stuff, right? Every time it's mattered, and we could have used her vote to really put a check on this president, she stood with Donald Trump.
I've known Troy for many years. What he understands that the people of Maine are sick and tired of a rigged economy. He's a working class guy. He's from the working class. He is very articulate. I think he stands an excellent chance to win.
Let's bring in former Democratic Missouri State Representative and CEO of Pine Street Strategies, Don Calloway. Here in studio with me, we have Democratic strategist and author Jenna Arnold, and also joining us, Republican strategist and MS Now political analyst Susan Del Percio. Good to have you all here. Hey, Don, did Democrats make the right choice with Troy Jackson? Can he handle the burden of convincing voters to stick with Democrats despite the Graham-Plattner scandals?
There were not many choices on the table. First of all, you have to find someone who has the experience and the character profile to be able to pull it off, but actually who wants to do it with this very, very compressed timeline, not much unlike the 100 days that Kamala Harris had to run. She could talk to him about what that's like. So out of a universe of extremely limited choices, it does seem like former Senator Jackson is a capable and competent character to be able to do it. But we should acknowledge that he starts at a tremendous, tremendous disadvantage, because even in Maine, where people are extremely political aware and active, he comes with less name recognition than a multi-term Senator Susan Collins. And we see that Maine has that independent streak. So it's going to be very, very hard to beat Senator Collins. And it goes back to the choice that the Maine Democrats made a year ago to pick Graham-Plattner, who was simply not prepared as a person of character or of substance to be on this stage. So while former state Senator Jackson seems to be a quality candidate, and I'm going to be hoping and supporting he wins, the disadvantage that he's at goes back to the extremely poor decision to put Graham-Plattner on that platform.
So Don mentioned it there. He was a state senator for a number of years. He has a lot of Graham-Plattner's progressive policies behind him. Is this proof that this progressive wave is taking hold here? And do you think he's going to be able to harness the same kind of enthusiasm that Plattner, around his controversies, was experiencing?
Yeah, I think he will be. I mean, I think it's important for Democrats not to mistake resolving this issue as some sort of success. We still have to be 10 toes down on making sure that we're having the conversations with people in Maine about why it's so important to continue to put their problems at the feet of Susan Collins, particularly because she's had how many terms to be able to resolve this. I love that he's a fifth-generation logger. I don't know any loggers. I don't know how many logger candidates there's ever been, but fifth generation seems profound. He can point to the fact that hospitals have closed in northern Maine when people in Washington, D.C. have gotten richer. So I think the conversion will be helpful, but I think nationally, Democrats need to make sure they continue to put the pressure on that state.
So, Susan, Republicans are going to be spending massively to help Senator Susan Collins keep her seat. How critical is it for Republicans to first keep that seat? And will money make the difference in this race? Does it usually?
Great question. I mean, we can go back and ask candidates like Mike Bloomberg for president or Jeb Bush, who ran for president, how much money really mattered in the end. It's significant. It does not mean you are going to win if you have the most money. That being said, I think we have to look at the Republicans have to be careful that when they're putting spending in, they're going to do it now. They're going to try and define Troy Jackson as much as possible, as quickly as possible. And that's where their job should be limited, because one of the reasons why Susan Collins has been so successful is she's not a national Republican. She is a senator from Maine, and her constituent services and just her whole profile always goes back to doing a good job for Mainers. And that's where she has to stay. And if the national Republicans meddle too much in that message, that can be problematic. Of course, now that we have the change in the law as far as how money can be given and we don't have to see the separations as much with the PACs and the candidates, that will also be significant because they can talk to one another and really say, this is how we're going to win this state and come up with a comprehensive strategy.
Okay. Let's move to Georgia with you, Jenna. Senator Jon Ossoff, certainly leading right now, his Republican opponent, Mike Collins, former congressman, by almost double digits in a new poll. What do you make of Ossoff's campaign so far? What can Democrats learn from the way he's running it and the way he presents himself?
I will be a broken record about this, probably in perpetuity, that we cannot have a strong relationship with polls. Polls, I think, sometimes give those of us who are concerned and paying close attention to the headlines this lean back mentality. And while he's leading, Mike Collins, who is a deep-throated MAGA, one of the points that I think the Democrats need to be able to not just take in terms of a strategy, but really own in an authentic way is that the math has just not shaken out for what this administration has promised this country and the world, frankly. And we can continue to point to that. Have tariffs made any of us richer? Are we meddling in less foreign affairs? Have our grocery prices decreased? My cups of coffee have almost increased by 25%. So I think continuing to go back to the math in a really nuanced way is helpful, but I don't think we should try to pretend that every candidate can show up in a very Clark Kent style like Ossoff is and win over candidates. We just need to go back to the books.
By the way, I said Collins is former, and I got the Mikes confused. We got Michigan.
A lot of
Mike.
Collins.
A lot of them out there. Mike Rogers. Anyway, so Susan, in this new Emerson poll, voters prefer Democratic candidates over Republicans nationally by 11 points. With 100 days to go, are Republicans on track to lose the Senate at this point?
The Senate, I don't think so. Not with Susan Collins still looking very much alive and well and winning re-election. I agreed with everything Don said about assessing that race. Without Maine, there is no chance. And then you mentioned Mike Rogers in Michigan. Michigan is a state that Republicans can actually flip. So this is going to be a very uphill battle. When we look at the states that Democrats have to win to take the Senate, you're looking at Alaska, maybe, but tough. Iowa, again, these are all red states that Donald Trump won with double digits. It is going to be difficult. It doesn't mean it's impossible. And that, polls, to Jenna's point, are simply a snapshot in time. They're used mostly for fundraising, in my opinion, not to win elections. So things can look different. But as we approach 100 days, Alex, I don't see where the Senate, the map is right now that Democrats pull it off.
So one last question to you this round, Dawn, with the Georgia gubernatorial race much closer. Democrat Keisha Lance Bottoms leading Republican Rick Jackson by just 2 points, and that is within the margin of error. 5% of the voters are undecided. Can Democrats count on independents to swing those undecided votes their way on Election Day in the tight races across this country?
No, we can't count on independents to do anything. That poll is essentially tied within the margin of error by any numbers. Keisha Lance Bottoms, my dear Delta sister, former mayor, you got to hustle this thing. I mean, you are at the top of the ticket. I know I'm not supposed to be breaking the fourth wall and talking directly to the candidates, but you've got to hustle for 100 more days. I'm hearing about the disarray and some things happening in the campaign. Maybe that's inside baseball, but you have the opportunity to put a very talented ticket on your back and carry this across the finish line. Rick Jackson is no Brian Kemp, who is very popular and very formidable. Donald Trump is very unpopular in Georgia, and Rick Jackson can be tied directly to him. And oh, by the way, there's an anti-billionaire atmosphere all around the country. Mayor Lance Bottoms, please get back to Atlanta, get in the streets, get into Austell, get with the barbershops and the people, and get this across the finish line. There's a very talented ticket under the ballot, under Ossoff and Mayor Lance Bottoms, Tanya Miller running for AG. But Keisha's got to get down in the streets and hustle this thing for 100 days. And I think we can do it in Georgia.